Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Today, let's think about what makes God happy. Well, here's the answer in short. First is himself. We're going to ignore that just for today. But it's people. And then we're going to turn that question and say, well, what if I, another human, don't like the other churchy people that are in my church? So it's something we should talk about. Let's talk about the people of God. And here's the thing. If you want to be friends with God, it makes sense to be friends with the people of God in the house of God. So it's like dating and then becoming engaged. You get to know a person's friends and then their family, and you begin to love them. Similarly, in the house of God, a marker of your friendship with God is your friendship with those that God has made friends with already. And really, there's no alternative, which is kind of how we're going to conclude today. There's no alternative to being enthusiastic towards the people of God. Now, he's enthusiastic about the people of God. God is. He calls them his children, family, adoptees. So what's our problem? So what if I can't be friends with the friends of God, at least as we start today's thought? So let's ask God to give us eyes to see the people of God like he sees the people of God. Now, he saw them, esteemed them right through their sins. It's not that they're perfect. In fact, they're not. He valued them enough to exchange the life of his son for their life. He valued them. So we can pray for this inordinate affection towards the knuckleheads of the church in the house of God. The psalmist asks, "Oh, that I could dwell in the house of the Lord." Well, you find two things there. You find the Lord there, which is obviously critical, but you also find the people there. Uniquely, you find his people gathered there to point themselves towards him. So, almost without exception, I can't think of an exception, is that when the Lord directs you to himself, he directs you to his people as well. Let me say that again. When he directs you to himself, he always directs you to his people. So why should I favor the people of God? Well, the short answer is because God favors the people of God. So God faithfully favors his people from the first page of the Bible until the last page of the Bible. We're the apple of his eye. We're his portion, Deuteronomy chapter 32. And besides himself, people are God's favorite thing. The Lord takes pleasure in his people. We're looking at Psalm 149 kind of officially as background for this. And so should you. God takes pleasure in his people, and so should you. So Christian fellowship is assumed on every page of the New Testament. God feels disproportionately attached to those in his kingdom. And sometimes you just got to ask why. And we don't know, but he does demonstrate this excessive bias. And so must, I'm putting it as a command demonstrate such an excessive bias. So God strangely calls people his friends. And to be a friend of God is to be a friend with the knuckleheads that God is friends with. So God is inexplicably fond of his people, and if you are not similarly inexplicably fond of his people, you have some explaining to do. So where is the correct place to gather, and why is it this way? Where do we gather? It's part of it. This is a geography question, and sometimes, and especially nowadays, you'll say, I've stopped attending church. I've stopped putting my body in this particular place. And I would argue is that for much of what God asks us between in the body of Christ is you cannot do it in your living room. You cannot do it on an online service, even if you're faithful. So don't let your grouchiness towards the people of God mar your intimacy with God himself, because I'm telling you that those two things are related here today. And here's your assignment if you don't like the church. I would encourage you to look at Psalm 149, sing to the Lord a new song, his praise in the assembly of the godly. The Lord takes pleasure in his people. And then Psalm 27. So 149 and 20 and Psalm 1 and Psalm 27. One thing I have asked of the Lord, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. So God likes his people so much, he promises the most valuable thing, which is himself. He promises to be with them. So Psalm 91 talks about that. Because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. So God is shadow close in another part of Psalm 91. And I choose this. I choose him. I put my stake in his shelter, and I put my stake in his shadow. He's with us in trouble. So trouble doesn't go away, but the Lord promises his presence. So over and over, the Psalms kind of promise us trouble, or at least recognize it. And yes, it will be trouble to fight temptation internally and sin internally. And yes, there's going to be external trouble, and where those who stand against God also stand against the people of God. So when many stand against you, it's time for your stand with the people of God in the house of God. So one of the images of the Old Testament is giving God your back, turning away from him. And Jeremiah 32:33, they have turned to me their back and not their face, though I have taught them. Persistently, they have not listened to receive instruction. So my question for you is, do you have a church that you love? Do you have a people in the church that you love? It's impossible to understand the truths of the Old Testament and the New Testament outside of God's interaction with the people of God. It's on every page of the Bible. So don't give the Lord your back on this. And likely, what is this going to mean? It's going to mean fellowship, service, membership, financial generosity, inconvenience, and exhaustion. These will be the new markers of whether you agree with this particular thought process. And then if you're going to experience the discipline of the Lord, let's do it together. You know, if you're going to experience the thumb of the Lord's corrective attention, let's do it together. Or if you're going to need comfort of the Lord, let's do that together in grief or something. And then if you're going to experience the joy of the Lord in worship and praise and spiritual awe, I hope you can do it on your own personally, but I also hope that you can do it corporately. So we've been reviewing 150 days of different Psalms, and what makes God happy? It's people. And what if I don't like church people? You can't end there. That is, if it is you, don't stop there. Ask God to help. And you help God do it. Don't give God your back on this. Thanks for listening.